promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko presents assessment of economic situation.
There was a forecast of the first 4 months of 2024, which were uncertain due to the upcoming elections, with 600 billion that should not have been spent as of January 1st.
The Gambian police arrest and detain journalist Mohamed Justice Dabo for his article on President Barrow's choice of his successor. Gunshots have been heard near the presidential palace in Guinea. And Africa CDC to receive $800 million towards the fight against Mpox on the continent. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and welcome to our listeners in Gambia, Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone. We begin here in Senegal as the government has assessed the country's economic situation since President Bassirou Diomaye Faye took office. At a press conference on Thursday, Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko painted a grim picture of the management of public funds by the former regime of President Macky Sall. In an audit report, the head of government highlighted cases of severe misappropriation of public funds, with billions of CFA francs spent without traceability. The public debt is now 15 billion CFA francs, contrary to 13 billion initially announced by the former regime. Legal proceedings have been announced against several individuals, including the former head of state. Details with Echi Atisu.
According to Ousmane Sonko, the audit findings reveal poor management of public funds under the regime of former President Macky Sall. Several billion CFA francs were spent unjustifiably between 2018 and 2024, according to the Senegalese Prime Minister's report.
There was a forecast of the first 4 months of 2024, which were uncertain due to the upcoming elections, with 600 billion that should not have been spent as of January 1st, but which the outgoing regime spent before we came to power, that is, before 2024, which is extremely serious.
Furthermore, Ousmane Sonko noted an increase in the public debt and budget deficit, contrary to what the previous administration had announced.
The reckless borrowing policy and the non-transparent use of resources have led to widespread corruption. Billions have been spent in the last 4 years under the guise of the defense sector to bypass public procurement rules. More than billions have been mobilized. On the front, there is unlimited scope for all kinds of abuses. This opens the door for mismanagement in the use of resources. I am speaking about all the unscrupulous individuals who have allowed political and business lobbies to divert a significant portion of these funds, resulting in hundreds of billions being misappropriated.
The government does not rule out legal proceedings and investigations to shed light on the situation. Several individuals are being targeted.
Responsibility lies with those who played a role. I mentioned Minister Mustafa Ba, Prime Minister Amadou Ba, and the Finance Minister Abdoulaye Daouda Diallo. I also presented President Macky Sall, who could not have been unaware of these practices. All these people have deceived Senegal. They have deceived partners to simply benefit from funds.
The government now aims to work towards the country's economic recovery. The official launch of the project will take place next Monday.
Eche Atisu with that report. Still in Senegal, the government has affirmed its dedication to promoting and safeguarding internet freedom. This statement was issued on Thursday by the Office of Senegalese Minister of Digital Economy and Telecommunications at the official opening of the Forum on Internet Freedom in Africa, FIFA Africa 2024. Senegal, recognized for its robust democratic institutions and forward-thinking digital policies, is setting a leading example in advancing digital rights across the continent. Augustine Colley completes the story.
Speaking on behalf of the Senegalese government, Abdoulaye Sylla stated that measures are being implemented to take advantage of the unprecedented opportunities within the digital system. He emphasized the government's commitment to using advanced digital strategies to ensure respect for human rights and individual liberties.
The digital world represents presents an unprecedented opportunity for Africa. Through initiatives to promote telecommunications, increase connectivity and internet access for all, we have the potential to stimulate innovation and transform our economies. Our challenge is to exploit these potentials while guaranteeing a fair respect of human rights and individual liberties. Senegal is committed to promoting an environment where internet freedom is respected and protected.
Meanwhile, the organizers of the forum, Collaboration on International ICT Policy for East and Southern Africa, CIPESA, commended Senegal for upholding democratic values and demonstrating strong digital credentials. Waragala Wakabi is the executive director of CIPESA.
It is a country that stands as a beacon of digital innovation and a strong defender of democracy. From the earlier days in the 60s, it has always had a very strong Pan-African outlook and a strong democratic credentials. Those credentials were also put to a test earlier in this year, and the country and its people and institutions passed with flying colors. We need, as a continent, to learn from Senegal's experience.
The three-day event concludes today, Friday, September 27, with the official launch of the State of Internet Freedom in Africa 2024 report.
Augustine Kohler reporting there. Will bring you details for that event at the end or in our thought bulletin. Now crossing over to the Gambia, the police have arrested and detained journalist Mohammed Justice Dabo for his article which claims President Barrow has chosen a successor as part of an exit plan. According to unconfirmed reports, Dabo is charged with false publication and broadcasting. For its part, the Gambia Press Union GPU expressed concern that President Barrow is considering taking legal action against The Voice newspaper over a story. WADR's Sankule Jankwen Banjul completes the story.
Ahead of the reporter Mohammed Justice Dabo's arrest by the police, the GPU had said the story in question upholds the principles of balance and fairness in news reporting. Modi Diouf is the Secretary General of the Gambia Press Union.
We've looked at the story, and the story upholds the principles of balance and fairness in news reporting as provided for by the Code of Conduct for Gambian journalists. And it has provided a platform in the same story for two senior officials of the president ruling party to either confirm or deny the claim that the president has chosen a successor ahead of the next presidential elections.
Following decades of repression on press freedom during the Yahya Jammeh regime, the GPU Secretary General says the union considers such actions as threat to press freedom.
So at the Gambia Press Union, we are concerned, bearing in mind that all the public statements that have been coming from the president in the past, which were negatively towards the media, and also the press freedom environment, which has been dwindling over time. We consider the threats against the Voice newspaper as a threat to press freedom.
Meanwhile, the editor-in-chief of the Voice newspaper, Musa S. Sherif, who, like the reporter Mohammed Justice Dabo, was also called by the police for questioning on Thursday. Earlier, he told WADR that his legal team is considering their options.
We are going to consult our lawyer, then we are going to see what we can do. It is an intimidation and it's an attack on the media. What we passed through on the 22 years of Jammeh is where we are going to be.
The Gambia has witnessed a significant progress in press freedom since President Barrow came to power in 2017. However, this legal threat by President Barrow's legal team, the arrest of Mohammed Justice Dabo for this article and previous comments made by President Barrow have raised concerns among the pressmen and women in the Gambia. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sankule Jang reporting from Banjul.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
As a reminder, we're live on WADR.org and on Facebook at WADR English Service. In downtown Kaloum, a district of the Guinean capital Conakry, gunshots were heard around the presidential palace on Thursday afternoon, with civil servants ordered to leave their offices. Special forces members took control of strategic locations, conducting searches while armored vehicles were visible on the main streets of the city center. In a statement broadcast late at night on state television, the presidential spokesperson urged citizens to go about their businesses and can be cautious of false information spreading on social media. Let's revisit the attempted coup d'etat in Benin. On Wednesday, during a press briefing, the special prosecutor of the Court of the Suppression of Economic Offences and Terrorism CREAT accused businessman Olivier Boko and former Minister of Sports Oswald Homke of attempting to overthrow President Patrice Talon by using the commander of the Republican Guard. Following the announcement, comments have emerged. Analysts are questioning the elements that led the judiciary to speak of an attempted coup. This attempt was supposed to take place today, Friday, September 27. To take a listen to Amzad Abdullahi, a Beninese political analyst and specialist in international affairs.
Mais j'insiste là-dessus, on n'a encore jamais vu, c'est bien la première fois qu'on voit une tentative de coup d'État être orchestrée.
But there are some points on this. We have never seen this before. It is the first time we are witnessing an attempted coup d'État without a network or accomplices. We're of course waiting for the outcome of the judicial process. However, the uncertainty we have is that there is none in reality. Yes, precisely. The question being asked by many Beninese today is whether these coup attempts allegedly orchestrated by Olivier Boko are motivated by his desire to succeed in 2016. For now, nothing is clear or stated about what is happening. It is true that the Special Prosecutor of the Republic was very clear in his statement, asserting that our forces attempted a coup d'etat, but that it was clearly used. Yes, that is indeed a paradox. Today we have a so-called special justice because it deals with the repression of economic offenses and terrorism. We have a very selective justice, somewhat controlled and politicized. This is a real problem concerning the separation of powers, which we adhered to in 1991. It separates the judiciary from political power, the executive from the judiciary, and justifications from powers. So all this once again proves that condemnation occurs even before a trial, before a preliminary investigation that could put everything into proper perspective. This shows that the procedure is more or less flawed. At least in the format presented to us, it resembles a justice system that is reheated in a microwave.
Eu égard en tout cas au format qui nous est servi, ça ressemble un peu à une justice qui est réchauffée au micro-ondes.
Amzad Abdullahi, a Beninese political analyst. And just before the break, let's take you to Ghana, where the Center for Democratic Government has condemned the public service of disregard for due process in the arrest and detention of Democracy Hub protesters. The CSO has expressed concerns about the police's repeated use of excessive and illegal control tactics, especially when dealing with young protesters. From Accra, Nadir Tete reports.
The Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, has strongly criticized the Ghana Police Service for arresting and detaining over 50 citizens exercising their constitutional rights to protest. 54 individuals who participated in the 3-day protest organized by pressure group Democracy Hub against illegal small-scale mining, commonly known as Galamsey, were arrested for allegedly engaging in unlawful acts. The suspects have since been remanded for 2 weeks and are due to reappear in court on October 8th. Senior Programs Officer for Human Rights and Social Inclusion at CDD Ghana, Dr. Michael Augustus Akagbo, highlighted several violations, including detaining individuals for more than 48 hours without court approval, which the CSO argues breaches the 1992 Constitution.
We had issues with the manhandling and the brutality of citizens who were exercising those rights. We had also been taking a magma in the denial of access to legal counsel. Counsels for arrested persons were running from police station to police station trying to find where their clients may be, and the police was not forthcoming with information.
CDD Ghana also raised concerns about the police's repeated use of excessive force, particularly against young protesters, urging immediate adherence to due process and protection of citizens' rights.
When we look to see how the police engage with protesters, especially with young protesters, there seems to be a discriminatory component to that. It's like the police having the mindset to go out and discipline young people for daring to even go on protest. And that is becoming very worrying because it's becoming a very common feature of how our police are dealing with young people. And we need to speak up against that.
Meanwhile, the police have refuted claims of ignoring due process and violating the rights of those arrested. They, however, admitted that 2 suspects were detained beyond 48 hours and have tasked the Police Professional Standards Bureau to investigate and recommend appropriate disciplinary actions. For WADR, Nadir Tete, Accra.
You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko presents assessment of economic situation. The Gambian police arrest and detain journalist Mohamed Justice Dabo for his article on President Barrow's chosen successor. Gunshots were heard near the presidential palace in Guinean capital Conakry. And still ahead in the news, Africa CDC to receive $800 million towards the fight against Mpox on the continent. We also have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
Many thanks for staying with us. President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria has warned that Africa's reliance on exporting raw materials is perpetuating poverty and underdevelopment. Speaking at the African Minerals Strategy Group meeting on the sidelines of the 79th United Nations General Assembly, Tinubu said Africa's vast mineral resources were being extracted and exported without local processing, only to be sold back to the continent as finished products at higher prices. Usman Umar in Abuja tells us more.
Nigeria's Minister of Solid Minerals currently chairs the African Minerals Strategy Group, a think tank for making Africa's resources work for Africa. At the sideline meeting, Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima, speaking on behalf of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, remarked that Africa must prioritize local value addition to industrialize the continent and achieve sustainable economic growth. The Nigerian leader also stressed that Africa must break free from its dependency on foreign markets and capitalize on its natural resources to drive economic prosperity.
We seek to break free by localizing the whole mineral resource value chain, from extraction to processing and then to sales within our countries. We have skilled men and women.
Speaking earlier, Nigeria's Minister of Solid Minerals, Dele Alake, outlined the priorities for the African Minerals Strategy Group.
By moving from commercialization to industrialization, we expand the capital formation of the mineral sector, increase employment of the people, provide opportunities for skills acquisition, facilitate the production of finished goods for local consumption and export, reduce our reliance on imported products, and ultimately raise the contribution of the solid mineral sector to our GDP.
Africa's significant mineral reserves, including 92% of global platinum, 56% cobalt, and 54% of manganese, are critical for manufacturing new battery technologies. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Omar reporting from Abuja.
And in health news, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, has pledged over $800 million towards the fight against a surging Mpox outbreak on the continent, the agency's head said on Thursday. John Kaseya, Director General of the Africa CDC, added that this amount was higher than its target of raising $600 million against Mpox, which was declared a global health emergency in mid-August after a new strain began spreading from the Democratic Republic of Congo to neighboring countries.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
On the guest segment this afternoon is Professor Gorgui Dieng, a Senegalese political analyst who weighs in on Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko's media engagement on Thursday. During this session, Sonko pointed out issues of misappropriation and financial embezzlement by officials of the former regime, including former President Macky Sall and Amadou Ba, the former Prime Minister. Professor Gorgui, in his assessment, says the Prime Minister left important questions and concerns of Senegalese people unattended to.
He insisted on what the outgoing government, the outgoing regime, did to Senegal before leaving. That to say, embezzlement, bad governance, etc. My first impression is that I think that was not what was expected from him. I don't believe that this is what the Senegalese who elected President Faye has been expecting from the government. That is my opinion. First, the general policy statement. I think this is the most issued thing the government should have done or should have given to the population, to the Senegalese people a long time ago. They got elected 6 months ago, and so far they have not given any roadmap to the people who elected them. Instead of doing that, they're talking about what the outgoing government have done. I think this is not what is expected from the government.
I mean, even if the Prime Minister, Ousmane Sonko, did not actually talk about some of the achievements by his government since being elected into office or he himself been appointed, I mean, there are areas it appears that they are working, Professor, isn't it?
Ask the Senegalese households whether any prices have been reduced. I think in some cases even prices have soared. Go out and then buy a glass of coffee, what they call tuba coffee. And you realize that they are selling you now half of what they used to give you for 50 CFA francs. And it can be said about the other commodities. In actual fact, nothing has been reduced. On the contrary, some prices have even soared. And I don't believe that what has been declared by the government regarding the reduction of those prices is being implemented on the ground by the sellers, by the merchants. That's not the reality. So far, the people have not seen any improvement in their living conditions. And this is the reason why illegal immigration waves are also soaring. Since the election of the new president, the number of young Senegalese people who have died in the seas have increased.
So do you think that is a direct correlation to the governance style or policies or reforms undertaken by the present regime?
Whatever happens in the country is in the responsibility of the government. Whatever. They had promised to the young people to improve their lives, to provide jobs for them. But I'm not asking them to provide them with jobs very quickly. What they should have done instead is at least to give them some hope. But I believe that the young Senegalese people have lost hope. What we can see, what is palpable on the ground, is that nothing has been improved regarding the living condition of the people and regarding the living condition of the youth.
Do you still see him in that position of playing opposition while in government? Or is this another tactics he would employ or is employing months before the parliamentary elections of November 17?
Let us face the music. We don't have got to be beating about the bush. What he must be focusing on is on how to improve the living conditions of people. And when he was asked a question about that, by a foreign journalist, he refused to answer the question, which is telltale of his decision to do something else than improve the living conditions of the people. And I believe that his keeping on, threatening the former regime, the president, some ministers, I think this is not what is expected from him. And this is not his role. It is the role of the judiciary. And this is the reason why I'm totally disappointed, because I am a believer that what is the Prime Minister is interested in is revenge, rather than development, rather than improvement of the living conditions of the people for which they have been elected by the people of Senegal.
Professor Gorgui Jen, a Senegalese political analyst, speaking there. Up next is a sports news with Sankule Janko.
Hello there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The Executive Committee of Nigeria Football Federation on Thursday approved the recommendation of its Technical and Development Subcommittee for the Federation Technical Director, Coach Austin Agavon, to continue in his role as the head coach of the Super Eagles and lead the team in its 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying matches against Libya next month. The 58-year-old in temporary charge of the squad had led three previously steered the three-time African champions to a 3-0 defeat of Benin Republic and scoreless draw with Rwanda in match days 1 and 2 earlier in this month. Agavon and the current technical crew that also includes Fedelis Lekwechu, Daniel Ogumode, Olatunji Borowa, and Thomas Zarek will also take charge of the Super Eagles B team for the qualifying campaign for next year's African Nations Championship, otherwise known as CHAN. With the departure of Mr. Randy Waldrum, the executive committee also approved the recommendation of the Technical and Development Subcommittee for coach Justin Madugu to lead the remaining technical crew and take charge of the senior women national team, the Super Falcons, pending the appointment of a substantive head coach. The Super Falcons' next big engagement is the Women Africa Cup of Nations finals, taking place in Morocco in the summer of next year. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Krista Mukidi for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Up next is the second edition of our comprehensive news package in French at the top of the hour of 1 p.m. I'm Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio